Imagine waking up one day and finding out that your money has lost half its value overnight. That's the reality for many Argentinians. And to make things worse, their government is proposing a bold move that might change their financial future forever. You might have heard that Argentina and Brazil are considering creating a common currency. In this video, we will examine Argentina's economic crisis, its alliance with Brazil, and the flaws of a common currency. So here's what's going on. At the time I'm making this video, external debt in Argentina is $272 billion according to their National Statistics Institute. And no country owes more money to the IMF than Argentina. The Financial Times reported in January 2023, Argentina's government got in touch with the IMF, and they discussed ways to avoid Argentina's 10th sovereign default since independence in 1816. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. To understand what led to this situation, let's follow the cash trails. Argentina has been managing taxpayers' money poorly, thereby running on fiscal deficits year after year. If you are unsure what fiscal deficits are, they basically happen when government spending is higher than their income. Essentially, governments get their money from taxpayers and use it for public expenditures of all sorts. And Argentina has been running on deficits for a long time, which means that they needed a constant inflow of money to fill the fiscal gap. Now, how could they get that much money? There are three main options: increase taxes, borrow money, or simply print it. Now look at these graphs. Over the past decade, Argentina's tax revenue has increased, but GDP hasn't. In fact, it has rather declined since 2017. Therefore, it seems that Argentina has been gradually increasing taxes over the past decade. But that wasn't enough to cover the fiscal deficit. Check this out. Argentina has been borrowing a lot of money over the years. And that's not all. Just when you think that this is it, that its economics couldn't get any worse, well, they do. You see, the problem with borrowing money is that your credit rating drops, meaning you have to pay higher interest to access finance. Also, interest accumulates over time. It's called compounding. And that's exactly the problem with Argentina. More borrowings led to more borrowings just to pay off the existing ones. As you can see from the graph, Argentina stopped borrowing as much around 2019-2020, but that's because it has started doing something much more dangerous. This leads us to quantitative easing, a fancy name referring to the government printing money. Here's the money supply in Argentina over the last decade. The hike in the previous few years has been enormous. The result was twofold. Inflation skyrocketed, and the Argentine peso became valueless. According to The Economist, annual inflation is about 100% at the time of recording. Also, printing so much money destroyed the Argentine peso. This is the peso against the dollar. Basically, when an economy has a lot of money, the value of that money goes down. So as you can see, the Argentine peso has become valueless compared to the dollar, and it all started with the government's irresponsible spending. Okay, so now that we know more about Argentina's economic prospects, you're probably wondering what's going on with this common currency idea. It's time to talk about the motives behind it. You see, the Argentine peso is in freefall, and to counter that, Argentina has been gradually selling its foreign reserves. For example, by selling US dollars and buying their own currency, they have aimed to stop the depreciation of the peso. But the peso is at an all-time low, and Argentina's foreign reserves are limited. That's why the government restricts access to all dollar reserves in the country. According to The Economist, imports are at a standstill. That's because many organizations in the country need dollars to pay foreign suppliers, and exchanging pesos for dollars to pay their suppliers would drain the dollar reserves of the country. Argentina's lack of foreign reserves makes cross-border trading difficult. So that's the motive. A common currency would make trade easier for Argentina because Brazil is their largest trading partner. It's similar to how the euro helps European countries with cross-border cooperation. The problem here is that only Argentina stands to gain from this deal. According to The Economist, Brazil's benefit would mainly be political. By supporting the idea, Brazil's president, also known as Lula, gets a reputation for making regional cooperation great again. Yet from an economics perspective, it makes little sense. Why exactly is it a bad idea for Brazil, you might be asking? A complete currency union requires the creation of a joint central bank. Economists have reviewed the possibility and firmly believe that a common currency between Argentina and Brazil would fail. And here's why. First, the same interest rate strategy must work for both countries. Otherwise, a monetary policy would favor only one country and not the other. Right now, interest rates in Argentina and Brazil are 61 percentage points apart. Second, business cycles need to be similar in the two countries. That's because when one country experiences a boom or recession, the other country will likely follow. So their shared central bank would need to promote a monetary policy that fits the economic cycle for both. But Argentina and Brazil are entirely out of sync. For example, Argentina mainly exports agricultural commodities, whereas Brazil exports industrial commodities. And if Argentina faced a wheat crisis, for instance, the impact on Brazil's economy would be tiny. So each country would need a different monetary strategy. Also, Argentina has so many economic problems that its downturn would be deeper and its booms would be shorter than Brazil's. Finally, and most importantly, if Brazil was committed to the joint currency, it would be forced to bail out Argentina, and then Argentina's leaders could carry on spending responsibly. So common currency is quite a bad idea for Brazil. This is why most of its government officials are skeptical that they should back the project. For example, Brazil's central bank made a statement against the idea. Also, at a press conference on January 25th, presidents of the two countries invited other South American leaders to join the project. It turns out that no one wanted to. Essentially, this currency union would place Argentina's problems at Brazil's door, and the two countries actually considered the idea of a common currency before, yet they abandoned it in the late 1980s. Why, you might ask, is for the same reason that the proposal might fail again now. Back then, doing business with Argentina was too risky. Argentina's inflation was skyrocketing, and they could no longer pay their debt. It's not clear what is going to happen next, but it seems that history is repeating itself.